I honestly feel like the reason why sometimes found footage feels more terrifying is that it looks like some video that your friend just sent you. It looks very real and it's very grounded. Most of these really great found footage movies, they begin with some kind of thing like, this was found in such and no one has seen this or whatever.
Lens cap.
Oh, crap.
Yes. Strong work, genius.
Dude, I have no idea what...
Well, found footage can always be a found footage genre. It could always stay right where it is. Again, just having the right story to tell that is going to keep people engaged. And if people are going to want to watch it, they'll watch it. And with that in mind, college kids can just pick up a handy cam that you get at the corner store and tell whatever story they want to tell.
Most people that see them actually believe them. They believe that this is the real thing, at least my understanding, and makes it pretty interesting. I mean, I have friends who are not in the business, and a lot of the questions they ask are like, "Are you kidding me?" No, this is a movie,
Hey, can you shoot some of this for my movie? Is that legal?
Who cares?
My brush with the found footage genre started with the Blair Witch Project. I'd never seen a movie like that, and it was actually handed to me on a VHS. I don't even think they make VHSs anymore. And so I watched it, and you kind of go with it because you feel like it's very real, and it's like really unfolding, and it's told in a non-traditional way, and you're sort of capturing moments rather than the traditional narrative. And I think from there, there was sort of a floodgate of a lot of these found footage movies.
I think the found footage idea has been with us for a while, ever since we did Ghostfacers in year 3.
I think the Ghostfacers was more of a reaction to the all the paranormal reality shows that were on back then and are still on today, so that was meant to be sort of borrowing from that sort of world, whereas something like Bitten was meant to be more in the vein of a Blair Witch or a Chronicle.
Now, one-handed.
I know there's been some films before the Blair Witch, although I didn't see it as the way we were going to change the way we watch movies or TV. It's just a really cool way to tell a story.
It's vicarious, right? The experience of watching someone do something so awful or unexpected or dark or selfish that we probably ourselves wouldn't have the courage to do. But that doesn't make it any less intriguing. It's naughty,
I think it's had kind of a hard road because most people didn't pay much attention to it, but inserted in the correct places, it's paid off pretty well.
In the world of supernatural, almost anything is possible. We create our rules, our world, and we're always trying to find something different.
One of the biggest reasons I wanted to work on the show, apart from I love Sam and Dean, was these kind of episodes, because they take such big swings, like whether it's changing channels or Monster Movie. Which is told in black and white, and that's one of my all-time favorites. And I think it's a real blessing to work on a show where you're allowed to kind of play in completely different sandboxes. I had pitched a found footage style episode just to see how quickly they would tell me no. And to my surprise, Bob and Jeremy said yes.
And it was just trying to find the right story and how it could all work and how the pieces fit together for our show.
I think that there's something always great about monster stories that taps into our humanity and our feeling of, are we in control or are we not in control? And I think one of the great core principles in a werewolf story is that you sort of lose control for a little while. And in the case of our story, where we try to kind of take the werewolf mythology and kind of expand it a little bit.
It's a little different. It's not your traditional werewolf. There's not going to be, big muscles and the fur and all that fun stuff. It's gonna be more of a psychological thrill to it, you know.
We have typically a very procedural engine on the show. The boys get wind of a case, they follow the clue trail, they find what they think is the monster, it turns out it's someone else. To be able to break it up and actually really kind of slow the story down in a way and really take it from these kids' point of view, we kind of had to break the story twice. So we broke the story that we wanted to tell, which was the story, which was essentially a love triangle, a very simple human story. And we all know that story, you know, boy meets girl, girl falls in love with boy's best friend, sadness ensues. And so our twist on that was that it was monstrous sadness that ensues, and the chaos that is going to create.
It's gripping, it's engaging, because the way in which the story is told, you're seeing that story unfold along with the person who's holding the camera.
It's becoming the thing now. And this show that I just did was the first time I really dealt with it all the way through the show.
Look. Starsky and Hutch.
Rizzoli and Isles.
Especially the Rose.
Obviously, one of the biggest considerations as we started sort of like laying out this story was, oh dear, you know, Sam and Dean aren't going to be in this very much.
It's interesting because we are coming at it from a different point of view, where we're seeing the side of the monster this time. We're seeing it in their headspace, from their side of it.
You know, the big thing with that is how unprofessional you can make it, if you will. Our crew is highly professional and really good at doing the show, and the look of it and the way we do the show is highly stylized. So to drop back and do a found footage episode is quite a bit of a risk, because now you're relying on cameras that are either handheld by the actors or they're mounted on a wall, and you don't get to get that close up unless one of the actors zooms in.
There is a lot to juggle there, and again, it's not for everybody. Some actors don't like using props. Some love using props. The director just has to go by feel a lot. They just have to listen to the dialogue and trust the actors a lot with just using the cameras.
This is a whole different approach to the show on this episode. We've all got handhelds. Sometimes they're all using them, sometimes they're not. In this case, only he's using his handheld.
I'm telling you, you don't want this.
Yeah, because I don't want to be super strong or have a...
This actually was a note that came from Phil, was making sure in each scene that there was some kind of indication as to who was going to be holding the camera. Like, were you holding the camera, or would it be a master shot, you know, once Brian had set things up?
All the camera moves and everything that you see, there needs to be a purpose. It needs to be for a reason.
No.
Okay, let's do another
I
one.
really like they put the cameras in our hands and they let us loose, which is kind of cool. It's been a lot of fun, but totally different though, because we're being directed as actors and as like cameramen.
At some point, maybe you would just settle into this chair as you get into that piece.
Sure.
You
Yeah.
know, and you
Yeah.
get right up with him here, you know.
To give the actors the camera and the freedom and the responsibility of the image is very daunting at the beginning.
You know, when you're shooting, you're trying to set nice frames, and you're not cutting them off here, or, you know, like this, or upside down, or, you know, and so you're just aware of every shot you're doing is not quite perfect.
I know when we were doing Ghostfacers, it took us a day, and the crew was looking at me like I was insane. And I was like, no, these guys have the cameras. There's no marks on the floor. Everybody has a wireless mic.
Nothing wrong with you. You just got to figure out what it is you want and go after.
Basically, when you shot the take, whatever the cameras did, that was the whole scene.
Frame. And action.
Kind of creeped me out, man. Seriously. Nothing super heroic to see here. Just a delicious bagel.
First day on set, watching dailies, you could see that they're just trying to feel their way through it and just trying to get comfortable with it. You need to catch yourself on camera, catch other people on camera while you're delivering lines.
One thing we didn't want to do was make all the shots perfectly. As if you've seen the show, you see what we did.
Don't be so perfect. That got really very clean.
Okay. I'll be worse with it, yeah.
Tom gives us directions on like how to do the camera angles right, you know, or make it a little bit sloppier, or you know.
Seems to be the main thing. It's more like, not more like, okay, you need to make it better. It's more like, okay, it's looking a little too crisp. We want us to look like your students. You're not very good at it.
Like I said, let it just kind of go. You're aware of it, but let it kind of go. We'll try it.
It was, you know, a matter of letting them practice a bit and setting the shot. The director would, you know, tell them that's, you know, I want it more framed this side or that side, or make the frame look worse, you know, it looks too professional.
And also here, I'd amp it up a little bit down there. Okay, just try one where we amp it up a little
Got
bit.
it.
But certainly by the second day, the actors really were on top of it and knew exactly what they needed to do, and you really see that they're having fun with it.
Cut.
They're pretty good. Yeah, I mean, right from the start, I mean, we found out that they were, you know, camera savvy, you can say.
My favorite moment in this episode is when Michael is in the bathroom and he's holding the camera, not dissimilar to how you're holding it, and he's literally watching the transformation the first time.
That was a pretty complicated scene where Michael transforms into the werewolf the first time. We did, you know, we had visual effects, we had special effects. With the amount of cameras, that gives you a lot of opportunity to cut, so that's where we were able to do it.
I had an idea on how we would do this, how I wanted to do it. And it was made like the old-time movie. I mean, everything was for real. There was some digital stuff, but, you know, everything was basically real time.
I think we take this right up to the point, does his dialogue, gets in there, does his dialogue, zooms in. We'll see his eyes shift via Mark, okay? Then I think that what we need to do is
He shot the whole thing as he was doing it, and all I would say is cut. We'd go in again, I'd say you got to get closer with the camera, put it right up. You got to really, because I wanted it really right into here. Let's give him a camera, huh?
All right, so pictures up. Taking this to the visual effect on the eyes, camera blur. Here we go.
It really pulls you into the moment, and his performance is great, and it's one of those great examples also like where you see how collaborative this medium is.
Cut. One more right away. You're on your eyes, and then give us 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, and then move the camera. So we'll see the transition happen.
It sucks because I have to keep my eye down, you know.
That's fine. You can do that. That's why I'm asking for the 3 beats at the end. So you can look and make sure you're all the way in, and then when you're all the way in and you're happy with that frame that's this, okay? 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, and then blur.
Okay.
Okay. And we're rolling. And action.
I am a golden god.
Cut. Let's review.
It's very difficult to know what you're getting on camera.
We're in the next room, and I can't see anything.
Many times, the cameras that the actors are using, you can't have an umbilical go into a video village to give an image. So the only way to see what you have is to just go to the actual camera, play it back.
Then the eyes would shift.
Now this is where we should be. Are we as tight as we can be on it? Yeah.
To act with props is different than to act with a camera in your hand. So it becomes a bit of a give and take.
Either we have to do it again or I'll accept it because we are not making it perfect. So sometimes you just go, yeah, let's go.
All of those work.
Okay.
All of them, last two.
All of them, give them all.
All of them.
All right.
1, 2, 3.
Going eyes and teeth now?
Yes. I'm just going to get you to look all the way down. Don't put your head straight. And just look down. And open your other eye. And just relax. Feel okay?
It looks simple on the back end, but what makes it seem so simple is preparing for it, and on the production side, and the director Thomas having the vision of knowing what to do to how to tell that and how to show that.
Those were designed so we're cutting, and the cuts are there, but you're probably not aware of them by then because you're so locked into what's going on. It was pretty neat, but all for real.
A lot of learning experience.
A lot of
from
learning.
This.
A lot of learning.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Learning about a camera, how to operate it.
Yeah.
I didn't know any of that before this.
35, 37, 38.
These kids were really on it, and they loved it. They were having a great time. Even it got to the point where finally I'd say, because I was so far away and just listening, I would say to one of them who was leading the shooting in the scene, once they're done, they're going to have to yell cut because I don't know where you are in the thing because I'm not watching. So that was a big plus for them. They got a big kick out of that.
We're making friends and enemies, because all the post-production guys, I don't know about I feel sorry for those guys.
Hey, Don.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
What we did is, I think I have the daily up here. I think, let me look at it. It was kind of, this shot itself was kind of a combination of, so here's Michael at the kind of where he zooms in on himself. And this is just the daily itself. And so you'll see the camera swish pan here. So they cut there, so it's cut in pieces. And then here's the second half, and he looks up and you pull out, and he has the teeth in his mouth. So the sequence itself, he's kind of here. This is the cut itself. And this is with the visual effect in it. So basically the cut is in the swish pan. And now, that's a whole different take. But you don't really see the cut point. And now he has the teeth in his mouth. So, yeah, I mean, it's the old-fashioned just cutting.
What's interesting is when we first started prepping the show and talking about it on the post-production side, we started thinking that we were going to have to do some post-production work to the images.
So a couple things we did, which we blew up shots tighter than they were shot a few times, not a lot, but just because that's something you can do in Final Cut Pro or in Avid, and so we thought that was something that this kid might have figured out. We didn't want to overdo a lot of effects and speed ups and different things like that. We kind of just adjusted here and there where we felt like we needed to help the story.
And in some instances, we did have to degrade the image or to just add more grain, to give it more of a realism, to give it more of that amateur feel, because the cameras ended up shooting such a great image, and the camera department did such a great job of capturing that footage and the media that a lot of times it looked too clean. It looked too professional. So we had to kind of take our TV producer, TV editor, series concepts out of our head and just kind of rethink certain scenes because it was looking too clean, too well produced.
The audience is very savvy, and they know what they're watching. So you have to really kind of find your rules and then stick with them, even if you don't like it at times.
The normal Supernatural, we cut a lot. And so this was kind of letting it go, letting it play out, more of, more drama in the wide, and it felt like you were kind of not in the story, but kind of watching it from afar type of thing. So yeah, that was definitely a conscious decision to let it play out in spots in one shot and just let it go. I mean, it's kind of almost like tunnel vision. It's like, you want to see what's happening. that's where you're stuck. You can't get out of it. So you just got to wait there, and the anticipation of like, okay, hurry up, pan the camera over. So it's that type of thing. You're waiting for them to do it.
I can't hear them.
Seriously, Kate, what are we doing?
What are we doing? Seriously?
That was all one shot. That was all her and her panning back and forth to Michael, and yeah, it was all one shot. And it basically, with the only thing we wrestled with that was the perspective and audio. I mean, it was perfect. I mean, you got everything, got her reaction, everybody's in just one shot.
Hey, Michael, you can come out now, dude. Scott looked for us for a while, but bailed. Mike?
We didn't really have our composers do anything on this one. I think by going without a lot of music, it added to the realism of the whole piece.
And I think that with the lack of music, I think it's just, it helps with the tension. You hear the breathing, you hear the screaming, you hear all the sound effects, the goriness of the attack and the ripping and all that type of stuff, where I think that helps, without, you're not so drowned out by the score. And the score doesn't tell you how to feel. You just watch it and kind of absorb it.
I think a lot of times music gets in the way, and I love putting music in shows, but there are times when you just go, it's better if there's nothing here.
That is so annoyingly logical.
Hey, baby. Listen.
Oh, it's pretty. What is it?
It's the song that was playing when we first met.
Oh, you were so...
If there was music in the show, it was kind of driven by the location. If they're in a coffee shop, say, we put some music in. We used Milo Green, a song from them, to kind of be the continuation through the thread of music through the whole piece. So you hear it at the beginning, you hear it at the end, and you hear it in the middle a couple times. It's just one of those things that we wanted to kind of have a signature through. It was all source music, it wasn't score.
Found footage movies, it seems like they're kind of moving in cycles. Like you see Blair Witch, and then you see all the copycats, and then it takes something like Cloverfield, that like shows the found footage thing on a much bigger scale, and then there's a bunch of copycats, and then you see something like Chronicle, and there'll be copycats. I think the more and more these cameras are getting smaller and smaller, and the more people are finding different ways to tell stories through this genre. Like I think you'll just keep seeing this kind of cycle of like one will kind of break through, and you'll be like, oh wow, that was really cool.
In this case, for Supernatural, everybody knows it's fabricated. It's just a different type of episode for us, so we're having some fun with it. You just have to be true to the idea of it.
It was exactly the kind of challenge that was called for here in season 8, and from where I'm sitting, everybody, from the writer Robbie to the crew up in Vancouver, really knocked it out of the park.
What Supernatural gives you is any episode can be a total left turn from where we've been before. We could be in a different world, a different dimension, a different time, a different point of view.
I think it's all story. You can call it found footage, whatever you want to call it. It's the story, and how you do it, it's the story. Sucking the people in, scaring the hell out of them.